this time of the year, it's a very good time to see what's usually the best film of the year, usually the little low-budget films. And with me today is Conchata Ferrell, who's starring in one of those films called Heartland. Can you tell us a little bit about Heartland?
Heartland is a true story of an American pioneer woman, which sort of like sets it into a category of its own. It's the story of Eleanor Stewart. She wrote a few books.
It takes place at the turn of the century, then
around 1910, around the last of the homesteading.
Right.
It's a story about a widowed laundress who made the decision to go west. She hired on as a housekeeper to a Wyoming rancher, and but in the back of her mind, the decision was, I'm going to go out there and homestead for myself. I'm not afraid of hard work, but I want to do it for myself for a change. And this, the film is the first 12 to 18 months of her experience. She understood farm life. She understood hard work, but she had never come up against anything quite like Wyoming or ranching.
There probably were many women like the character you played.
I don't think America could have been settled if there were not a good many strong-willed women, particularly the American West. You get out there now and you just look at the countryside and you go, I mean, those little frail things, you know, that you see throwing corn to the chickens in the movies would have never survived. They would never have survived it. And it was in the 50s that we pushed women back into the kitchen and made them all look like Doris Day and Sandra Dee. You know,
Well, let's take a look at the scene from the movie so I can see what we're talking about. And your character's name again is what?
Eleanor.
Eleanor Stewart.
Eleanor Randall when she went west, and Eleanor Stewart before the end of the film.
Okay, and these are scenes with your new, well, in some of the scenes you haven't married him yet, but...
That's right, yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
Mr. Stewart, in your letter you said $7 a week. In Denver, I got $1.80 a day just for washing.
Well, I don't guess burnt fork's quite caught up to Denver.
You're taking this out on us. The hay's running out, and there's no help. I can't help you.
You still didn't see?
Oh, I see plenty. I didn't marry those cattle. Take your son. Come on, take him.
James, you're a healthy crier in the wilderness. Well, you did all right, Mrs. Randall.
Thank you.
Come on, turn him out.
I can't talk to that man.
You'd better learn before winter.
That's a funny line.
Yes.
Is she just a loner woman? Is she related to anybody, or is she just everybody's grandmother?
Well, she's everybody's grandmother. When Eleanor first meets her, she says, you know, they call me Grandma because I have delivered all of the babies in this area. And it's played by Lelia Scala. You may remember a film with Sidney Poitier years ago called Lilies of the Field. And she is the German nun who says, you are going to build me a chapel.
Oh, okay.
You know, so that's Lelia, who's a very great lady and a very great actress, and we were very fortunate to have her.
And speaking of great actors, Rip Torn plays the part of Mr. Stewart.
Yes.
And does an excellent job. What was it like filming up in Montana?
We were there for 7 weeks. So we had 5 weeks of blizzards and 2 weeks of sunshine.
Yeah.
It was a tough shoot because the weather changes in a matter of a split second up there. Even on days that there were blizzards, like all of a sudden, you know, you'd have like this bright sunshine for like 5 or 10 minutes, and then you'd be back to blizzards again.
Right.
I had never set a horse before I went up there. I had never done any of this stuff before. Neither had Barry Primus. Neither had Lelia Scala. So there's 3 of us who are supposed to be old veterans at all this kind of stuff that had to learn that in a matter of like a week. And I froze to death. I'll be perfectly honest with you. The crew wore Arctic wear, but those of us who were playing pioneers had to wear cloth coats, you know. And let me tell you something. I just about froze to death for about 7 weeks up there. Yeah.
Really got you into the role, though. That's exactly how they had to go.
They said that the hardships probably contributed to the hardships that the actors were experiencing probably contributed to that tightness that you feel in the film. There was also a wonderful sort of thing that happened. I think happens with people who are working under hardship conditions. You either get to hate each other or you get really dependent on each other. And we were really dependent on each other. I've never known a crew and a cast to be so close. The grips practically were responsible for my life. I mean, you know, I would be freezing to death, and somebody would come by to hold up a flag, and they'd put a cup of coffee in my hand. Or I smoked cigarettes at the time where, the grip would like give me a quick drag off the cigarette between the things. Or one of them even took their gloves off and like slipped them on my hands one day, just between takes, because I'm standing there going,
Well, I think, like you say, that contributes to the realism of the film. Even in the scene that I really liked, it really showed the desperation, I thought, was where you're pregnant and you're about to have the baby, and you tell your husband to go get grandma because you're about ready to have the baby, and he's gone for, I don't know how long it is in the film. It seems like days, I'm sure, to you. She's 10 miles down the road at the next farm or something,
yes.
and he comes back and he's got frostbite. He's just frozen stiff, and he's been gone all this time. He comes back and says she wasn't home. It just must have been extremely difficult.
Astonishing. I find it astonishing that this country got settled. I'm really glad that it wasn't dependent on people like me.
Films like this, lower budget films, seem to come across as the better films. Why do you think that is?
Could be because they are being made by people who truly love to make movies. A great many films are made today financed by MCA, Gulf and Western, Standard Oil. Mm-hmm. They really are not interested in making movies. They are interested in profit margins. Mm-hmm. They want a star. They don't want an actor. They want a star. Right. If they're lucky enough to get both, terrific.
Great.
So the act of caring has really fallen onto like the director, not the producer so much. Mm-hmm. When you get these little films, you start out with a producer, and you start out with a director, and you start out with actors who are not going to make $3 million mm-hmm. for the picture. This is probably sacrilege, but I'm one of those people that think no actor is worth $3 million. Not even Marlon, and I love Marlon, but no actor is worth $3 million. I just don't. I think it puts too many other actors out of work.
Right.
That's my thing about the big films. I think that films that cost $35 to $40 million mean that there are 5 to 6 small films that don't get made.
Right. When they spend that much money, it seems like they could also, have the money or time to find a good script.
Of all of the talent in the industry, the most rare is the good writer. It's probably the most important ingredient. Mm-hmm. So I say I get a little hostile about spending like $35 and $40 million. I'm not hostile to George Lucas.
Right.
George Lucas does exactly what he sets out to do,
mm-hmm.
And I sort of see Lucas as another Disney, it's just a thing apart.
Mm-hmm. People may recognize you from many other things. You've done quite a bit. You were in the movie network.
Not my finest hour.
Not your finest hour.
My first confrontation with the film camera, I was a stage actor.
Is that right? That was your first?
Yeah, and I got in there, and of course I was overcome by, there was a writer. I am really impressed by good writers.
Right.
So there was Patty Chayefsky, and there was Sidney Lumet, and Faye, and Peter Finch was the big thing for me.
Right.
It was like, but I was not prepared for that one eye, that camera. I'm used to audience, and I'm used to feedback, and I really didn't know what to do.
Quite a change.
Yeah, it really did. I remember my friend, we started together. His name is Brad Dourif. He's an actor.
Sure.
Called me. Called me and said, after having seen Network, he went, "Well, babe, it ain't going to make you a star."
Right.
Maybe they'll take movies of themselves kidnapping heiresses, hijacking 747s, bombing bridges, assassinating ambassadors. And we've got ourselves a series.
A series about a bunch of bank-robbing guerrillas?
What are we going to call it? The Mousy Tung Hour?
Why not?
He said, you're going to have to learn the film camera like you learned the audience.
Right.
Brad is from the same state that I'm from. We're both from West Virginia.
Yeah.
And I found Brad back in West Virginia at a little show.
Uh-huh.
I went backstage. I'd only been in New York for a year. Certainly couldn't help him any. Mm-hmm. But I went backstage and went, "What are you doing here?" And he went, "I'm wasting my time." Right? And I went, "You shouldn't go to school. It's not going to help you," because he was marvelous. He was the oddest thing I'd ever seen in my life, but he was marvelous. Mm-hmm. That was in April, and the following September, I got a phone call, and he said, "Chetty, this is Brad Dourif. Do you remember me?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, I'm in New York, and I need a place to stay." And I put him up and took him to Circle Rep. Uh-huh. I was best man in Brad's wedding. That's the kind of friends we've been. I've had him wait for me after a show and go, "You were so bad, you embarrassed me tonight." But when he waits and goes, "Lady, I really like to watch you act," then you
really
go,
means something.
"Hey,"
Yeah.
you know.
I did all right.
Yeah, I did all right.
Yeah.
It has taken me quite a long time. Television has basically taught me to like, to make friends with that camera.
You've done quite a bit in television. You did
Yeah.
Hot L Baltimore, which was a short-lived but popular series while it was on.
Yeah.
From Norman Lear,
Hotel Baltimore.
creator of All in the Family, Sanford and Son, another comedy milestone.
And you did that on the stage for
I did 377 performances for Hot L Baltimore.
377.
Lanford wrote her for me. Gave her to me for Christmas in 1972. It was my first professional role.
Oh, great.
And put my picture on the cover of the play.
Uh-huh. And that's what got you started in TV, then, Norman Lear.
Yes, but I did 2 other plays. So I did a play called Battle of Angels, Tennessee Williams' first produced play. And he came in, and never been done in New York, and he came in and rewrote. And we did a new version of Battle of Angels.
Great.
And I was into the run of Battle of Angels when Norman Lear bought Hot L Baltimore and asked me if I would like to come with it. He asked one other person, one other original member of the cast, who was Judd Hirsch. But Judd at the time was involved with the law and could not come and do it. Judd is probably one of the best actors in America.
He's excellent. I watch Ordinary People just for him.
He's the most giving actor I ever worked with. There was this knowledge of, like, when you went on stage, that there was this force there that any time you needed to make contact with would always be there. I never looked at him that he wasn't looking back. You know what I mean? There was this kind of wonderful generosity. I went not so much because I wanted to be on television, but I went because I would have died if the rest of the world had gotten to know April as anybody but me. You know, she was like mine. You know? My dressing room was bigger than my apartment in New York. Actually, I've been very fortunate. I've only been acting for 12 years. I've been making my living at it for 7. And in those 7 years, I have had 4 great roles and 2 very good ones. They tell me that my career actually is just beginning. I hope they're right, that I don't have to worry about getting older. And as I get older, there will be more and more. The problem, of course, is that this is America, too, you know, and they tend not to forgive women for getting past 35. You go see the Simone Signoret movies, and you watch that great light, and you go, thank God she's not American. They wouldn't let her work. You know, thank God she's French, and that they go, it doesn't matter that she's 50 pounds overweight and that she's so obviously 60, because she is a great light, and that's what matters. Hopefully we're moving a little bit more toward that. You know, they've allowed men to do that for in this country for a long time. I mean, certainly Gene Hackman is no beauty.
In Heartland, you had to do some pretty amazing things. But in the summer, you had to pull the plow, which I'm sure was no small task.
I think probably that's physically one of the toughest things I've ever done in my life was plowing that field.
None of this was made easier for you because it's the movies. You really had to do this,
No, we really had to do it. I mean, Richard Pierce, who is the director, is really into do it. Let's do it. You know, and of course he can stand back there behind the camera and go, "You do it." You know, but
should have made him get out and show you how to do it.
Oh, well, there were 2 men there that couldn't plow that field.
Gosh, but you did.
I got angry enough to do it. Angry enough to do it. I think my response to that was, you know, I mean, it's unfair to ask me to do this when Wonder Woman is cast. You know, but I was so angry that I was able to do it. I also trusted the horses. Could never have done it if I thought those horses were going to run with me, because I had the harness under my arms, and if they had decided to run, I was a dead lady. I never trusted the horse I sat on. He ran away with me every time I turned around, you know. And I think the delivery of the calf.
Where you manually
pull it out.
And were you actually, I mean, I was looking and there wasn't any trick photography, or, I mean, I saw a couple of close-ups where I thought, well, maybe they're not doing this, but they'd always go back and you actually did it.
We did it. When I read the script, of course, I'm from Hollywood anymore, right? You know, you never think when you read the script, but you go,
you don't do that.
You don't do that. You know, when I got there and found that they really expected me to do it, I kept going, oh, come on, a little Hollywood magic. I mean, there's a limit. We went to about 6 births. We saw 6 births. But once that thing started, probably was one of the most exhilarating experiences of my life. Suddenly a life is totally dependent on you. totally dependent. The only little drawback we had is they ran out of film and they were changing the film, and then they got into the discussion, and there's Rip, you know, and he's going, fellas, I can't put this back. It really was quite an exhilarating experience, and we sort of instinct takes over. When a life is dependent on you, you don't panic. You just do what you have to do. And I think that's probably the reason the scene has the impact that it does.
Very strong. Excellent choice of where to put it in the film.
Yeah. Without
saying too much. Well, can I make a suggestion that you keep your calendar open for the dates of the Academy and Golden Globe Awards, because I think you're definitely going to be a nominee for sure.
That's kind. One other person has mentioned the possibility to me, and I went, oh, wouldn't that be great? But then every woman in Hollywood made a movie this year, you know, so...
That's true, but I don't think any of them are as powerful as this one. It's truly an excellent film.
Yeah, that's kind. I mean, who wouldn't like that, right?
Right.
But that's gravy. The
important thing is that you made it.
Yeah, the baking of the cake is the doing of it, you know. Anything else is gravy. This is gravy.
Right. Well, I know you have a busy day ahead of you, so I'll let you go. And Conchata, thanks for joining us here on Best Bets in the Box Office.
Thank you.